Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning in to another Tuesday Tea, where we're spilling the tea on important issues related to interpersonal violence. My name is Adde Waggoner. I'm the sexual assault prevention educator for Crisis Services of North Alabama. And today I'm joined by a very special friend and colleague, Ali Lynn. And do you mind taking a moment to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, Addy. I'm happy to be here. I'm Allie. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a family support worker at the National Children's Advocacy Center, which I love. I also am the regional director of Trans Family Support Services here in Huntsville. So we support families who have a trans loved one along the journey, offering resources and help and support and advice throughout the journey. I also am a wife and a mom of two LGBTQ kids, and they also happen to be teens.
Wow. Yeah, you got two teenagers at home. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited about our conversation today. And in the context of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is October, the month we're in, many may think that domestic violence primarily involves adults. But research is showing consistently that teens experience dating violence at an alarmingly high rate of about 1 in 3. In fact, domestic violence is highest among people ages 18 to 24, with the risk factors for interpersonal violence developing in the adolescent ages of about 12 to 18. And this is more so the case for queer youth, including lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans teens. And I'll note here that queer is not a bad word. It's being reclaimed as a positive and empowering term. So we can use that again in a kind way. Recent statistics show that LGBTQIA+ teens may be at a greater risk for emotional abuse, digital abuse, and harassment, as well as sexual coercion. Additionally, an estimated 43% report being victimized in their relationships compared to 29% in hetero-teen relationships. What this highlights is not that sexual minorities are prone to interpersonal violence because they are queer. What it is saying is that queer teens may have different circumstances that we as adults, educators, caretakers, and friends need to be aware of to better care for and equip teens to understand abusive behaviors. So that being said, teens in general often just don't know what behaviors in relationships are considered abusive. And queer teens face unique challenges to understanding the nature of abuse. Ali, could you tell me a little bit about some of the obstacles that queer teens face in their relationships?
First of all, I'm really glad that you made the distinction between being LGBTQ and being at a higher risk for all of these issues. I always want to make that distinction, that it is not about how one identifies, it's how they have to navigate the world with that identity. And I think that dating is a perfect example of this, that we hopefully believe that we are who we are and we love who we love. And that's what parents and educators should embrace and support in how they parent and support the kids and teens in their lives. But we really miss the mark on how to do this, especially when it comes to sex education. I was watching a panel one time of this, and there was a trans, actually I think he identified as non-binary, a teen, and he said, I literally have never seen myself or my romantic or sexual relationships represented in any book, in any material, in any class, in any TV show, in any movie. And that has really stuck with me. I feel as though we often forget, or for our own moral reasons, we think it's not okay to talk about. And therefore, our LGBTQ teens are left to navigate their their understanding of healthy relationships, either on their own or through the internet, which, as we know, can be either wonderful or extremely harmful. So my first thing would be to say, we have to do better talking about representing all types of relationships, and then talking with our teens about what a healthy relationship looks like in all of those different types, because respect, it covers all of those relationships. It's not just a heterosexual demand. It should be a demand for every relationship.
I agree. Respect and empathy.
Definitely. Ask that question again. I'm not sure if I answered it. I went off on a tangent.
No, you're fine. Those were important points that you covered. So I asked if you could tell me some of the obstacles that LGBTQIA plus teens may face in dating relationships.
So representation, or lack of, is the biggest one. I also, though, because I work with a lot of families, family non-acceptance or family acceptance, but not necessarily support or affirming actions can be really harmful. And I think that teens are worried that they won't be believed, they won't be heard, they might be shamed. And at the very least, they might be embarrassed of either the situation they got themselves in. And then, of course, there's always that fear that it'll come back to, well, you're in this situation because you're gay or because you're trans. And that reinforces that belief. That is really unfortunate, because it's not true, of course. And so I think that those are all really big reasons, especially living here in the South, why teens are afraid, or people in general, LGBTQ people are in general really hesitant to report or even just talk about abuse when it happens.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And you highlight something that's an important consideration for us to talk about, and that's, the social stigma that people still face when they're perceived as different. And in the context of LGBTQIA plus individuals, they face the additional obstacles of maybe they're afraid of being outed, and the stigma associated with being queer or non-binary or what have you. And that may impact whether or not they reach out to trusted adults or friends. Perhaps they are in a same-sex relationship and their parents don't know. Mm-hmm. And so they're afraid of being outed if they do come forward. And what I've read associated with that as well is that sometimes in same-sex or sexual minority relationships, the abusive partner will actually use their target's sexuality against them as a way to control them. So that's kind of where I say individuals in sexual minority relationships face specific obstacles that we need to be aware of as adults and friends that interact with them, and take those into consideration. Mm-hmm. Do you have any other specific boundaries or stigma associated that you think are important points for our teens to know of?
So I have one of my kids is transgender, and her whole life, I have wanted her to know that being trans is just one aspect of her life. It is not who she is. As a matter of fact, it's the least interesting thing about her. She's not a girl with an asterisk. She's a girl. And knowing your self-worth is so valuable. Knowing that being trans does not make you less than, or it doesn't make you less worthy of an amazing relationship. It doesn't even make you less attractive. The people who would not date you because of your gender or sexual identity aren't worthy of you. And that is what I want teens to know. Like, find your people, be around people who build you up and who love you and adore you, either because you're trans or not. It doesn't matter. That is a part of you, and sometimes that is the most important part. But hopefully, if you have a loving and supportive community around you, it becomes less of the most important part. You know, it's only really important when we need it to be or when we want it to be. And so, you know, because some people, that identity is really powerful and important, and they want to celebrate it, or they want to, you know, show it off, and that's amazing. But we should never be forced to make that. You know, it should be an individual choice, not the community making it the biggest deal. So knowing your self-worth, having high standards, and then not accepting any violence, you know, and understanding that it's hard to walk away when you feel like maybe there's no other option or you won't be supported. But find your people who build you up enough to know that you deserve better.
I love that. All of what you just said. It's so important for us to think in the context of how we're supporting the individuals in our lives. Whether we're hetero or other, it doesn't matter. It's just a small aspect of who we are as people. You know,
and I would just add that, you know, the Trevor Project, who I love and respect that organization so much. They have a wonderful section for healthy relationships, which I love. Mm-hmm. They, you know, their study of one affirming adult reduces your risk of suicide attempts by 40%. And I know that parental non-support is really harmful. And so I don't want to minimize that, but I want, if that is true in whoever is listening in your life, find that one affirming adult. Find the adult who says to you, you're worthy, your identity is accepted here, you're not alone, there are other teens like you, because that is really important. And you're not depressed because you're LGBTQ. You're depressed because you're not trying to navigate this world possibly on your own, and there are hurdles you're going to have to overcome. So find that one person, hopefully more than one person, but we're out here, and you are definitely one of them, Adde, for sure. So I love the work that you're doing, and I know that you are there for, well, anyone.
Well, thank you. That's really kind of you to say. I feel the same about you, and so many of I feel like our community here locally is growing leaps and bounds and making progress toward not tolerance, but acceptance, because I think there is a difference. And while tolerance, okay, that's good. We need more tolerance, but it still creates a little bit of a barrier, because I can put you over here and still put you in the other category and say it's tolerance. But acceptance, we gotta widen that circle and that bubble to encompass everybody. So the work that you do at your multiple organizations and affiliations is incredibly important. And I'd like to, if you can, expand a little bit more on the services that you have available for families who may need you.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that. I brought Trans Family Support Services here a little over a year ago because I really felt a need to support families. You know, I always think of it as a train ride that a person comes, maybe realizes, especially when I guess I'll talk specifically about the trans identity. You know, someone says, I think I might be trans. They hop on that train right then. The train keeps moving in a direction. Their loved ones have no idea that they're on that train. So when they either push them on, pull them on, invite them on that train, they are still so far behind them. And I sometimes get frustrated with families, either lack of acceptance or the excuses of, oh, using the correct pronouns is so hard. And I have to remind myself that they're way far back, but they're still moving forward. They're still on that train. And if I can at least help them a little, walk on that through the train cars a little closer to their loved one, then that is what I want to do. And I think that telling our stories and using our personal experiences to help others is not only really powerful, but important and meaningful for me. It's my very favorite thing to do, is helping families navigate this journey with their trans or gender nonconforming loved one, or anyone who identifies as LGBTQ. And I love the organizations here in Huntsville. I should have mentioned that I'm also on the PFLAG board. PFLAG is Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, although it's way more inclusive than that now. But we run a monthly support group, and we've got amazing booklets that I love. And I also help start the GLSEN chapter here, GLSEN Greater Huntsville, and they work super hard to help educate teachers and the community on how to support their LGBTQ kids. So I am really, really proud of that work. And I think one of the most important things that I can do, that we can do, all of us, you included, and you're so good at this, is just having those little tells, those little signs that we're here and that we're supportive, putting a rainbow anywhere, putting our pronouns anywhere, showing up for events. Our teens are looking at us. I remember being in a PFLAG meeting one time, and there was a 20-year-old trans guy there, and there were several of us parents of trans kids, and he said, this is literally the first time I've met a supportive parent in my life. I've heard about them. I knew they existed, but I've never met one in person. So thank you for being supportive. And I know it really affected me. And I just feel like, okay, my daughter doesn't really need me. She's fine. I need to be there for the other kids who aren't as fortunate in the support that they get either at home or in their school, in their community. I want to be out there.
Yeah, the work you do is amazing. I would also, if you don't mind, do you have an email or a website that we can direct folks to that maybe want to reach out to you?
Yeah, I do. I will definitely share I've got an ongoing list of community resources and also national resources that I can share for anybody who reaches out. Also, parents or caregivers of trans or gender nonconforming kids can definitely come to our support group, or really any way I can help. We also offer medical guidance. Of course, I'm not a medical professional, but I can help connect you with those resources or insurance resources. And my email is ali@transfamilysos.org.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And I do, I want to expand just a little bit on what we do here at Crisis Services for anybody who may not know that, that there are plenty of resources out there in the community willing to help. So Crisis Services has a 24-hour helpline, and that number is 256-716-1000. And that's available to anybody. You could be having a really bad day and just need somebody to talk to, or you may need to get connected to domestic violence shelters. And that number can get you those services. We strive to be a very inclusive and supportive and understanding organization. So we don't ever want anybody to feel like they can't reach out because of any demographic characteristic that they may, or intersectional characteristic that they may have. And Additionally, if somebody doesn't feel confident talking on the phone, we have a text line in the evenings from 4 to 11:30 p.m. And the number for that is 256-722-8219. And the last message that I want to send to anybody who may be experiencing violence or abuse in their relationship is there is hope. There's always somebody here listening and willing to help you. So please reach out, talk to a loved one, tell somebody that you trust. We're here for you. We promise we are, and we want to make sure that we get you safe and healthy and happy. So, Ali, I really appreciate you talking with me today, and we will talk again soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the invite, Adde. Thanks for all the work you do.
Oh, back at you.